so I'm sitting in a village here on the Amazon River waiting for a boat back to Iquitos, which I guess you could call it civilization. And I wanted to kind of start my review on this DPX HEST 2.0. I got a left-handed one. My friend Robert Pelton makes these knives, or he designed them, and they're actually made by a company called Lion Steel in Italy. And this is actually the second one of these that I've had, and the second time that I've had it down here. I just have it tied basically to my belt through a little loop here, and I just do that because I don't want to lose like my primary tool besides the machete. Just to show you some of the features, I suppose I should probably tell you first how I lost the first one. And the first one, I was stupid, and I stupidly lost my passport, and I have no excuse. It was stupid. So I learned my lesson, and my passport never leaves me. In the jungle I keep it here, anywhere else I keep it around my neck. But with the first one of these, I had somebody help me arrange a flight out of Iquitos to Lima without a passport, and I had to do a bunch of stuff, and he had to do a lot of work and pay his friend, etc., etc. And so I gave him and his companions a knife. I gave him a 0 tolerance, and I gave his companion this. I was holding out on giving away the HEST because I just didn't want to lose it. But I eventually had to give it to his friend. Anyway, some of the features that I like about it: number one, it came from the factory razor sharp with a good edge. The blade has always been centered and been very, I mean, as far as fit and finish, it's been a fantastic knife. It's a useful blade shape for me. I like the blade shape, and it has this will function as a bottle opener if you want it to. Okay, another kind of neat feature, another way to use that bottle opener. If you've got a lanyard on the knife already, you can wrap it around and make yourself a little bit more secure for when you're using it. I don't use it that way, but I saw somebody do that once. It's kind of a neat trick. But I think after talking to some people that have owned this, I think the idea behind that is, if you watch on the pocket, when you take it out, you can actually deploy the blade, because this part here will catch on your pocket. Now, I have some mixed emotions about that feature, because I understand that, you know, there are people who may need to get a knife out really quickly in certain situations, and frankly, I'm just not one of them. I'm not a tough guy or anything, and so that feature for me is more of a nuisance than it is helpful. But I understand that there are people who actually use that. It's just I'm not one of them. But I have used that as a bottle opener, being somewhat of a beer drinker on occasion. It's got a bunch of other features, but I think I'll probably show those when I'm back in the States, because I'm running out of battery. One other thing I am going to show you though, he's got a little lock pin here, and once that's locked, you can't open and unlock the blade. So, and then you just unlock it, and then you can close it again. Just a word about how I've used this. I have not been batoning wood with this particular knife. I tested the other one that I had, and we lightly, you know, did some batoning with it, but I didn't lock the blade. Instead, I put it on top of there at the tap. Now, in reality, see, it's raining out. In reality, you're a fucking moron if you baton with the folder, unless that's your only option. I just wanted to see if it was possible. The guys out here, they don't monkey around with like reverse Vulcan grip and all these stupid man scout ways of holding a knife and all this. They have a knife as a tool, and they use it in their daily life And I have seen them baton wood, but it's with a machete. They wouldn't use a knife like this to do that. So anyway, enough soapboxing. When I get back to the States, I'll show some more features of this particular knife. And I actually have a video that I'll splice in here of this being used for one of the more common things that you would actually use a knife like this for. I just wanted to show that you can, in fact, baton with this knife. I'm not sure how useful that particular thing is because I just have not found myself needing to baton, but if you were going to do it, I don't really like to do it with the blade locked in the open position because I worry about the hard steel impacting against the softer titanium frame. So you can baton with this knife, and if you baton with it without the blade being locked, that's easier said than done, but it is possible. I think you can at least somewhat avoid the problems of this hard D2 steel bashing against the softer titanium frame lock. So that brings me to the next point. Why not stop being so much of a jackass and trying to baton with a 3-inch folder and make yourself a tool out of readily available materials to accomplish the same task and not potentially damage your knife. So, there is something to be said for being smarter than what you're working with. Like that. Just take and make a wedge, and then you can resharpen as you need to, and it doesn't end up potentially damaging your knife. Some other neat features of this blade are that the jimping is not only functional, for grip and things if that's the way you use a knife, but each of those is a little wire stripper for a different size wire. The clip works pretty well. It could be a little bit tighter, and that's one of the main reasons that I use a little lanyard to go with it, but I do that with all of my folders, not just with this one, just because I don't want to take a chance of sitting down and having the thing come out of my pocket. It's got a glass breaker pommel. You can swap that out with the tool, and I'll show the tool in a minute, to a different pommel style if you like. From what I hear, it's very functional. I have not used that feature myself. Another kind of neat feature is on the handle, this is a hex. Now, why would that be a hex? It's a lanyard hole. What do you need a hex there for? Well, it's kind of neat because if you have a hex tool, like any of these, screwdriver bits, or sometimes they have Torx bits or other, Allen wrenches, things like this, you can use this as like a little driver for that. I haven't had to use that particular feature yet because usually if I have the bit, I have the driver. But hey, it's a lanyard hole. Why not make it compatible? The ergos of the knife are pretty good. The handle shape is pretty comfortable for my hand. I have pretty much average sized hands. I like the G10. This is really grippy. you know, they made a decision to make it half half titanium and half G10. You know, evaluate that on your own terms. If it were me, I mean, I don't mind the G10 here, and I like, you know, titanium frames and things like that. If it were me, I'd almost prefer that this side be of a steel that is of similar hardness to your D2 here, but that's just me. It's been a functional knife, and it's been pretty good so far. Other knives that kind of remind me a little bit of the Hest, or one that's kind of similar, is this Strider. I reviewed this Strider separately, and you know, it's a good knife and all. I wonder a little bit about the thinness of this G10 here, but that's for another review. And there's going to be people that are going to say that that thinness doesn't make any difference. Okay, whatever, go watch another video. So in very similar in feel and function is kind of this Strider, but the Hest has some features that the Strider doesn't. One feature that I like is that the lanyard hole isn't bisected by the tip of the blade. I haven't found a tactical use for cutting the lanyard by closing the blade yet. I'm sure somebody has, but the Hest has some other things that the Strider doesn't have. It's got you know, your glass breaker. Again, I haven't used that feature. It's got the hex driver. Haven't really used that. It's got the rotoblock, and that actually kind of is a little bit added security. I'm not going to say I'm going to trust my hand to it, but it does add a little bit of security. The weak point again being that this is soft titanium against hard steel. The rotoblock also does a little bit, there's a little bit of, seems like there's a flange on the inside that prevents over travel. I like that. And I got this for a lot cheaper than I got this. So in my mind, this is, the Hest has you know, some of the neat features of like one of the, you know, tactical carry knives, tactical folders, and it's, you know, a lot more affordable. Now, for edge retention, I carried this knife pretty much every day for several months and used it for things like opening boxes, you know, cutting apples, just normal stuff that I'd use a knife for. And then I used it for a week in the jungle, and now and during that time batoned wood with it, and I just finished batoning some wood. I haven't done anything to the edge. It arrived sharp. It's still sharp. I'm not sure how it's going to do. Whoa, yeah, see? It arrived sharp. It stayed sharp after all of that. So kudos on the edge retention of this particular steel. The Hest also comes with this little tool called the skull tool, and this is from, again, I bought two of these knives, and this is from the one, and I haven't opened it. Here's the one that I've actually carried. It has a replacement for that glass breaker with a more rounded edge in case you don't want to carry a sharp one for whatever reason. It's got kind of a sharpened thing here that you can use as a wire stripper. It also works like to open boxes, like you know, if they're taped in the center, you just put it like this and like that. Works pretty well for that. It's got an edge here that some people sharpen. I'm not too keen on that. It's got this adjustment tool to adjust the tension on on the knife, on the pivot point of the knife. It also works fantastically well as a nail cleaner. Additionally, this kind of cross-shaped tool is what you use to take the glass breaker and clip on and off of your knife. The best use I've found for this is actually in summary, I really like the HEST 2.0. I'd call it like a tactical folder. It's good for everyday carry for me. It's nice and light, coming in at about 5 ounces. The blade length is good for me. It's maybe a little bit thicker than I need or use on a daily basis for the blade. I used it well for 2 weeks. This particular one for 1 week, but I had another exact copy of this that I used for a week as well. So I've used it for 2 weeks total in the jungle as backup to a machete. And in that role, it's been fantastic. Have no complaints. Again, like I said, similar knife, tactical folder, with actually what I would consider to be less features is the Strider, and the HEST comes in cheaper. From what I can tell, the performance of the HEST has been very good.